So we're now back in the active meeting. And Ann, are you ready to start your presentation now?
Yes.
Okay, great. The floor is yours.
Okay, great. And everybody can see the presentation okay this time?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. All right, so just to sort of recap, I'm just gonna kind of go over kind of like the overarching plan for the project and talk a little bit about the uniqueness of what we're trying to do. And I think I already introduced sort of our team, our board members. This is just the slide that has their images. If you have, other questions about anybody on our board, please feel free to ask afterwards.
So Ann, can I ask you a
Uh-huh.
question if it's okay for me to interrupt? On your board members currently, are they all from the Raton area, or do they represent the different counties that you're looking to work with in the future?
No, well, Vaughn here is our board president, and he's from here, he's a fifth generation Ratonian and lives here currently. Jessica is from here and lived up here until recently. She had to move due to some family health issues. Eric does not live here, but he does a lot of economic development work in the area. And Becky lives here. And then myself and Jose are in the process of moving here. We just bought a house and we'll be living here full-time shortly. And then Elizabeth, she actually just lives over the border in Trinidad.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right. All right. So basically, Elbertone Media Works, like I said, we've been working on this for over 2 years. We have, tried to come in. We came with Jessica to talk about how we could bring film to the region. We did a lot of background and research trying to figure out what could work in a small rural area that's 3 hours away from, 2 major cities, Denver and Albuquerque, Santa Fe. Basically what we've come up with is we've created a phased plan for workforce development training facility that centers around the booming film and television production industry in New Mexico. We are working on a first of its kind, state of the art, and first of kind in New Mexico, not in the world or anything, or in the country even. In New Mexico, state of the art XR with extended reality studio and education center in an abandoned Raton public school. Our plan is to bring film, television, and emerging media projects to northern New Mexico to invigorate the local economy and create a wide range of community and workforce development opportunities through partnerships, collaborations, and investments in local and regional businesses and educational institutions. We are working closely with the city of Raton and other community stakeholders to ensure we are meeting the needs of the community, as well as building regional rural coalition to grow filmmaking across northern New Mexico. And this is really an opportunity to develop local talent in this fast-growing industry in underserved communities. We are currently working right now with a group from Mora. They are also trying to bring the film industry to that small region outside of Las Vegas. And they want to focus on post-production facilities. So it actually marries quite nicely with what we're doing. And we're working on some cooperative grants with them. And we are also growing this effort called the Greater New Mexico Media Collective, and we're working with folks in Tucumcari and Farmington, and of course Mora, and a couple other local areas to sort of create. We had our first sort of conference last year, and in Farmington, and we hope to have another one this year, maybe in Raton. So that's sort of some of the efforts that we're doing regionally.
Hey,
I just want to.
Ann, sorry to interrupt. But another question, have you made any progress with the Enchanted Circle Council of Governments and their desire to open up something? Originally, they were trying to open something in the town of Taos. And I had asked them to contact you and to see if, so we're not reinventing the wheel. Have you made any progress there?
They have not been very responsive, no. I've sent a couple follow-up emails, but I haven't heard back.
Okay. I think,
So, yeah, if you can
Commissioner
do anything to
Trujillo and
help
I
that
will
with
work
that
on
along. What's that? It's a little hard to hear.
I'm sorry, what was that? Yeah, I said Commissioner Trejo and I will work on trying to get them to respond to you.
Okay, that would be great.
Sorry to interrupt you.
It's okay. All right, so again, just for people who haven't seen this presentation before, I just want to explain a little bit about what is unique about what we're doing. What is an extended reality film set? A lot of people don't understand what that is. The film technology is changing, you know, in traditional sound stages, films that needed a virtual environment were created with large green screens, with props and actors in the foreground. Actors pretend that they're immersed in this whatever world they're supposed to be in. This is an example from this GIF. It's an example from Lord of the Rings. So you can see you have elves standing on what looks like a cliff in Rivendell. And so they have to pretend they're in this environment. The cameras shoot the scenes with the props and the actors and with the green screen in the background. And then the footage is sent out to photographers who replace the green image with whatever the background is supposed to be. This is a very lengthy and tedious process. And if there's a problem, if the lighting, things don't match, something's out of focus, all this stuff, everything has to sort of be reshot and redone. So what the XR stage is doing is now changing that. So this is kind of like a little joke. I don't know if anyone's seen The Mandalorian. Mandalorian is the first show to really make use of this technology. So this is sort of a little joke. You can see Mando sitting here in a green screen, and then here is the new technology. So instead of having this big green screen, instead what's happening is that we're now actually building the virtual environment directly into the production process. So instead of a big green screen, you have a giant LED wall, and you're putting your actors and the props in this curved LED wall, and inside of that is called the volume. And that way, when you shoot in camera, you're actually seeing, as you can see here, with Mandalorian, you can actually see the camera. It looks like a sky behind him, but that's really actually an LED wall. So you're seeing exactly what you're going to see in the film in the final version. So you don't have to go and composite it later. You shoot it right in that environment. So you sort of bring the post-production process into the production process. So you're building the virtual environment using photorealistic gaming technology to be able to display the background in the volume, in this curved LED wall. In some very large studios, they have like a 360 set, so you can have you're completely surrounded by these LED walls. We won't have one that big, at least not yet. So here's kind of a bigger picture, so you can kind of see. So again, this is from The Mandalorian. You see this large curved LED wall, and then this is actually a ceiling with LED as well. And then you can see there's rigging, he's like flying, and there's all the sets pieces in there. So this is what we want to build. To our knowledge, we have not heard of this being built yet in New Mexico. I believe the closest LED virtual set is, I think it's in LA and Chicago, I believe they have. But there's none in Colorado. And as far as we know, there's none in New Mexico yet. I'm sure that Netflix will be creating one soon. But we really want to get ahead of the curve on this. This is something that could really attract people, make them go out of their way to come 3 hours from Albuquerque, Santa Fe, or from like the Denver area to come down here. It's a really unique technology. So again, just so you understand here, there's motion sensors that are all along the LED wall that are tracking objects inside of the volume, which is again how it It's really able to help make sure that the right image is behind the actors in any given scene, so that the camera can see the correct perspective in the artificial space. So I don't know if you can tell from this picture here. So this is a live picture that I took. We went to Las Vegas last year for a convention, and this is an actual LED, an XR stage. And you can see the difference right here in this image. This is producing like an 8K image, and wherever the camera shoots, it renders the video much higher quality than the rest of the background. So you can see exactly the angle where the camera is, and it's whatever is supposed to be behind the actors at that time. It stays in perfect perspective, even though they're moving around. It looks completely natural if they're in the real environment. So as I mentioned, there's this new production workflow. It creates a lot of new jobs. There's high-tech programming, game engine design, 3D visualization, 3D art, motion tracking, engineering. These are all key roles that are really important to this environment. High-tech jobs that pay well, jobs that don't really exist in the area right now. And again, we have been recently awarded the contract through a leader agreement with the city of Raton to take over Kearney School. And we are in the process of, waiting on the funds coming through, both the capital outlay funds and 1.1 million in capital outlay and $3 million in federal appropriations that the Representative Ledger Fernandez was able to secure for this project. So we are waiting for those funds to come through, and we are going to start the process of transforming Kearney into the school itself will become a training facility. So there's about 20,000 square feet of classes in a gymnasium, and we're going to renovate those, turn those into higher tech classrooms. We're going to transform the gymnasium into a small training XR soundstage. And then phase 2 of that project is going to be getting a professional soundstage. So in order to be considered a professional qualified soundstage in the state of New Mexico currently, you have to be at least 7,000 square feet with at least 25-foot ceilings. So the gymnasium does not meet those specifications, so that will not be considered a qualified soundstage. So we are now working with the city to try to secure another $10 million in capital outlay requests from the governor, who visited us in September and was very excited about this project. And she told us she is watching us to ask for more, to dream big, and she really wants this for the region in northern Mexico. So we asked for 10 million, and we're hoping to build a qualified soundstage. And again, that is going to bring in film productions here, because there's a shortage of sound stages in New Mexico right now. There's multi-year waiting lists for studios. So we think if we can get on that qualified sound stage list, it will bring projects here. Like, people will be willing to go out of the way to get a qualified sound stage and to have this impressive technology that does not exist currently. And again, this is just a little bit more information. So you can kind of just see here, this is just a rendering of sort of what the volume is like outside of the, like inside the LED without the LED wall around it. And this shows the motion tracking. So there's the motion sensors all around, and it can track multiple objects inside of that to be able to make sure that the camera understands where everything's going, so the background matches what's happening in the volume. And we want to be, we know that like this region has not had a lot of filmmaking. There's been some, and of course much more down towards the Taos area, and of course down towards like Las Vegas, but not so much, very little in this area. So the workforce training part of it is the first phase, and that's the most important, because we need to get people on board to understand what we're doing, to get interested, to get young people especially, and anybody who's looking for work interested in the kinds of jobs that working in this kind of a studio could provide. High, good paying union jobs. In addition to that, it's also gonna bring film productions that need, there's gonna be hotel room needs, there's gonna be catering needs, food needs, supplies needs. All of these things will bring in a lot more economic development for the region. I mean, there's things, I think all of the dry cleaners in Raton have closed down. Like, I think there was one that was sort of open and now it's for sale. That's gonna be something that's needed. But there's a lot of opportunity to open new businesses or expand businesses that exist currently. And along with the educational partnerships, we are working very closely with Santa Fe Community College. We just had a meeting last week to discuss creating a dual credit program for their film certificate program at the Raton High School. So we're in the process of trying to get that going now so that hopefully for like the next school year, that's something that could be possible, and also expanding that to other programs, to potentially the game art programs, the culinary programs, different opportunities. And we've also been in talks with Highlands, Luna, IAIA, also to see what they're offering and what they would like to do in our facility, because none of these universities have this technology. And we want everyone in the region to be able to benefit from this technology and expand what they're able to offer in their own programs, and also bring in more people to this region. All right, so that's pretty much, kind of what I wanted to go over. I think, in terms of what Commissioner Weir was mentioning, I did do a presentation with the Enchanted Circle, where we talked about, the possibility of creating a regional website that would sort of encompass, crew, location, businesses, sort of film office information, contacts, procedures, forms, regulations, all of that to do filming within the whole region, as well as to create a database of drone footage for the region. So not only just Raton, but anywhere in sort of Colfax County. And then of course, if the Enchanted Circle wanted to partner with us to also expand that to the Enchanted Circle, so that they're, anybody who was looking to make a film in the area could just kind of look through at the footage and say, okay, what is this ranch at Eagle's Nest look like? Let me see what the aerial view is like. What is the ground view like? What does it look like out at Capulin Volcano? All these different things. So that's kind of one of the regional things that the commission could really help with, is trying to get that off the ground and to help with creating a little more consistency throughout the region. I think one of the things that came up at the Enchanted Circle meeting was that it seems like they don't have a real film liaison or film office in Taos, even though they have had a lot more films there. And because their regions are so small, people tend to stay in Taos because of the hotels and the food, but then they go out and shoot in another area that could be in Colfax County, might be in Angel Fire, might be in Cimarron, might be in Eagle's Nest, and then nobody has consistent rules in terms of getting film permits and things like that. So that's something that we could potentially partner on and work with them so that we have something very consistent. So it makes it a lot easier to come to this region and be anywhere in the region and have some consistency and understanding and contacts and, what crew you can use, where there's food, where's lodging, all those kinds of things. And then of course, social media marketing, we could do for the region.
El Raton Media Works is a nonprofit headquartered in Raton, New
This is
Mexico,
just a promotional
located
video
on
we did.
I-25 at the scenic base of the Rocky Mountains. Our vision is to bring film, television, and emerging media projects to northern New Mexico. Our goal is to invigorate the local economy and create a wide community and workforce development opportunities through partnerships, collaborations, and investments with local and regional businesses and educational institutions. Through innovative workforce development training and by providing access to state-of-the-art technology, including the development of a cutting-edge extended reality XR stage, We hope to empower the community to thrive in a media-driven world. We are committed to promoting community engagement, creative self-expression, and life and career fulfills, whether it is in our studio or in the beautiful locations Raton has to offer. And if the beauty isn't enough, we are located in New Mexico Film Commission's Uplift Zone, which makes projects eligible for the state's largest film tax credit rate of 35%. Visit our website to learn how you can get involved or bring your project to fruition.
All right, so that's the end of what I have to present. Does anybody have any questions after that?
It doesn't appear that there are any questions, and I know we have another item. I believe it's the next item on the agenda after the presentation is the letter of support. So is there anything beyond this letter of support that you're hoping for the county to participate in?
Well, I mean, thank you for that. One other thing, we have this community support campaign going, and this is basically, we've been trying to get people in the region to basically do a sign-on letter or to send an individual letter to the governor, because we did put that, or the city put that $10 million ask in to build a professional soundstage, which is really going to be the key economic driver in this project. So if anybody on the commission or anybody in the room, anybody could pass this along and sign that letter of support, that would be great. If you could just go to elbertonmediaworks.org, sign a letter, or send an individual letter, or if any of the commissioners could send a group letter or an individual letter to the governor to let her know that you're behind this project and you want to see it happen for the region, that would be fantastic.
Okay, well, thank you for the presentation. Again, I don't see any additional questions. Thank you for the presentation. And you're welcome to stay on for the next part, which is item 11, discussion and action on a letter of support for Andy's El Raton Media.
Okay, great, thank you.
So commissioners, this letter of support was in our packet. Do you have any questions about the letter of support?
No, I don't have any questions. I think we should support them. I mean, it's obvious that our federal representatives and state are behind them. A couple of weeks ago, I went to the governor's breakfast and just had a brief conversation with her, and she mentioned the film work that we're doing up here and tried to push it along. And then yesterday, I read about a Senate bill going through the legislative session. I think it's Senate Bill 12 that they're talking about expanding the tax credit as well for going outside of Albuquerque, Santa Fe. So I mean, it's a huge incentive even more to come up north.
Commissioner Karn, did you have any comments?
No, I don't. But I think it's great and totally support it. It's fantastic for our area.
Okay, with that said, any questions or comments from the audience? Come on, Anita, you're dying. See it in your eyes. Ms. Valdez is going to speak. I don't know if you can see her. And
Hello, Ann. Good to virtually see you. I wanted to just make a quick comment and encourage the commission to support this particular program. I think a lot of comments that I have personally come across in my short tenure here as economic development coordinator and kind of just a liaison for the community is that Raton is unfortunately, 5, 10, 20 years behind, quote unquote. And I really feel that this particular project will catapult us into competition and healthy competition with not only the rest of the nation, but of course here in our New Mexico little neck of the woods up here in the northeast corner of the state. So I do encourage you to do that. Raton has already supported and sent in a letter of support. the program, or I should say the little campaign that they have for community support to produce letters and to send them either individually or through the kind of the, Anne was able to put together sorry, I'm total loss of words here. It was a template for letters of support for the community. We've already submitted those in our newsletters to the business community for the last 2 months. So we've been doing our small part to help promote this so that we can definitely step into this next century and just this next decade, hopefully ahead of the game.
Thank you, Ms. Valdez. Anybody else? Okay, looks like there's no further comments, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the letter of support for El Raton Media.
So moved.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, will you do a roll call, please?
Commissioner Kern?
Yes.
Commissioner Trillo?
Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
Yes. Thank you, Ann. Sorry about the
All right.
technology challenges, but we're getting better, believe it or not. We're getting better.
I guess I should have just come down there, I'm sorry. I thought this would be easier. All right, well, thank you so much. I really appreciate all your support, and feel free to reach out to me if you want any additional information or other presentations I can do. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
On to item 12, discussion action on the statement of receipts and expenses from the Colfax County Treasurer. Alfonso, I think Lydia has asked you to speak in her stead.
Yes, and I have this report.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so we have here the report of the receipts and distribution for the 2022 calendar year. And it starts out here with the general fund. We've got the receipts there. A total of $7,452,724 in receipts. We have $1,698,881 in transfers going out from the general fund, and then the disbursements were $7,662,801. Then we go down to the road department. We have $392,503 in receipts, $750,000 in transfers into the road department, and then disbursements of $1,033,369. And then we've got just a breakdown here of all the transfers we've had throughout that calendar year for the county. So we have transfers from the general fund that were temporary. We had one going into the legislative appropriation fund, and that was for $211,000. We also had one to the FAA Angel Fire Airport fund, and that was for $187,000. And you'll see later in the report where we did transfer those back once the funds became available to get them back to the general fund, because they were temporary. And so we have permanent transfers from the general fund. We have to the corrections fund, we did $100,000. The American Rescue Plan Act, that had $69,534.68. And the road department fund had that $750,000 transfer. Bringing it to a total of $919,534.68. Then on the next page there, we have the transfers to the general fund that were temporary. We have the FAA airport transfer for $103,883.40. We have one to the legislative appropriation fund for $108,000, and then we have those two that went back, the $187,000 from FAA Angel Fire Airport, and the $211,000 from the legislative appropriation fund. And then we did have some other permanent transfers through the calendar year. There was a gross receipts, a transfer from the gross receipts tax fund to the solid waste fund of $75,000. Transfer from hold harmless two bond series for $354,134.84, and then a transfer from the county environment fund to the solid waste fund of $75,000.
Any questions from the commission?
I believe the total is wrong on page 2 of the general fund temporary transfers.
Oh, that is, yeah, we'll get that updated and get you a good amount on that, that's probably.
So is it saying that we spent more than we took in last year with the receipts and distribution transfers?
It looks like that on here kind of, but this is also calendar year and we operate more like fiscal year, so it's kind of, I think that discrepancy is more that it's not how we, how we're normally operating, I guess.
Any other questions? So I have a couple. So in the treasurer's report, as of January, so I should compare apples to apples, we should be looking at December. But I didn't bring December's treasury report with me. But we're showing a total in investments of 12,389,000-ish, which is down significantly. If I recall, in December it was around 15 million, or maybe 16.
What that could be is we did have, from collecting taxes, we had those undistributed tax CDs that we had invested, and we did collect a lot through December. So we had a real high undistributed tax investments in December, and then we cash those and then pay out our disbursements through in January there. So that's kind of what's happening there. I think it's the.
So is that large disbursement usually done in December?
No, it's usually, our disbursements are always kind of a month after when we collect it. So our December collection would be just dispersed now in January once we cash that undistributed tax CD.
I just don't remember that big of a drop last January, but maybe. On these transfers right here, but these transfers don't affect any of the investments, right? These are to and from the general fund.
Right, yeah, so they're all just kind of, the cover funds that were needing to come in for a moment, and then we're available, we transfer them back and things like that.
Then, so what was our cash balance at the end? Again, I have the January, not the December. You don't happen to know our cash
I
balance?
don't have that off the top of my head, but I can get you something.
Okay, yeah. Well, I actually had the report at home, I just forgot to bring it. So I can look it up myself. I was just wondering what the cash balance was for the general fund. Those are the only questions I have. So if there are no other questions, by the way, my computer just rebooted on me, so I'm gonna have to use the manager's agenda here. I will entertain a motion to approve the receipts and expense report of Colfax County Treasurer. Did you have any other comments before I ask for that?
I don't know.
Okay, I'm sorry. So I'll accept a motion.
I'll make a motion with the, accepting it with the correction on the total of the transfers. There was a 0 left out, it should be 609 instead of 61.
And I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion to accept the statement of receipts and expenses report from the Colfax County Treasurer with the exception of correcting the total amount of transfers to the general fund that were exempt from the following accounts. Madam Clerk, would you do a roll call, please?
Yes. Commissioner Kirk?
Yes.
Commissioner Trio?
Yes.
Chairman Moore?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you. All right, next item is item 13, discussion action on the need for a special project coordinator and assistant. Mr. Manager?
We were asked to put that on the agenda, to actually look at somebody who could maybe write grants. It has come to, I think, all of our attention that there is a lot of money out there as far as looking at grants and getting grants. A lot of the challenges that I think counties have is actually assigning somebody to do and go after those grants. I know we've had two. One is the sheriff, who's been very successful at getting grants, but the sheriff also has to manage his office and respond to emergencies. And I'd like to commend our fire marshal. I think they've both been very successful in getting grants. But I think the commission is looking at a position or we're entering into a contract with somebody who can actually take the time and energy and have the expertise and knowledge to actually go after some of these grants. I did have an opportunity to sit down with Scott Berry, and we ended up having a meeting last week. That meeting went a lot longer than I thought. We about 2.5 hours. In that meeting, one of the things I addressed with him was that we would not be able to assist Raton with ARPA funds for the law enforcement or dispatch, and he kind of expected that. But we did agree to work together, and we both are aware that there's a lot of grants. We're going to become more involved in working with the city of Raton. But from some of the information that Mr. Berry provided to me is that we have about a 2-year window of opportunity, and that there has been a lot of revenue come into the state, and that all of us should be taking advantage of that. So with that said, and with your approval, or if there's further discussion, I think we need to move forward in looking at that position, getting a professional in here who will actually, once again, have the time, the knowledge, the expertise to assist Colfax County in obtaining some of these, this incredible amount of money that is out there right now. And we can definitely use it in so many different departments and so many different projects. So I guess that's where we're at in the scheme of things on that, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions from the commission?
I don't have any questions, I just have some comments.
Go ahead.
So when I first became a commissioner, and now to this date, I've been learning, and it seems every time it's grants, and there's no one person's job to kind of just oversee it. Everyone's taking a part of it. There goes a lot that goes into it. So something that I'd like to see is maybe an assistant to also help follow up and keep up with the paperwork end of the things. And I think in getting this position on board, if it's possible, it would help out free up the workload for the other county employees and everything else, and help them to better serve our constituents. I'd also like to just kind of throw it in there if my priority is always going to be the county, and I want them to focus on that. But I know in the past, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the county becomes the fiscal agents for certain villages and communities and stuff like that. And this grant writer, I would like them to kind of not write the grant for these agencies, but also kind of help them along if possible. And that's just kind of my sense on
And again, I think we probably will have to refer that suggestion to legal counsel. My only concern is anti-donation. I know if they're another government agency, there's no problem.
Yes, and it's
But if they're a nonprofit, there could be an issue with us assisting them without some fee or something involved in that. Commissioner Kern?
Yes, I'm not gonna say whether I support or don't support this. I think on face value, it's a good idea. I can't vote to say, yeah, let's do it without job description, salary range, for both positions, because you're talking about creating 2 positions. Currently, I know the financial specialist tracks all grants, and even when I first started, from the time I started to when I left 6 years later, there was a huge increase in those grants and became even more taxing on that position. I would suggest that we have the county manager and his staff in conjunction with the commission, if he wants their input, to come up with the job descriptions, the salary range, maybe, I don't know if you've talked to other counties, if they have a position, you could, no use to reinvent the wheel, but, and then we take this up at budget.
I just have one comment. I did reach out to New Mexico counties just to kind of see if anything else like this is going on with other counties. They did reference me to the Valencia County and Danny Montet. What is it? Danny Monette. They've actually got a grant writer or special project coordinator on staff, so they might be a good resource for that. And Monty, I'll forward you this email here from New Mexico counties.
And also, I know, Brett, I know you're aware of this, that Monica Veda's team and stuff, they've got some grant writers in there that we can access if there's anything immediate. We can tap into that, because I know they were a huge assistance in us getting the funding for the Blossom Gap Bridge. So I don't think we are missing the boat by anything. If there's something we want to go after, they can definitely help us with that. But I think the timing of this needs to be a budget.
And just to let the commission know, this was just to kind of bring it on board, get it on the radar, and once again, get an opinion on whether the commission thought this was a good idea. And Commissioner Kern, we will follow your instructions on this as well. That's kind of the plan we is if this was favorable, that we would go ahead. And once again, there's still a lot of work to be done. Once again, whether this is going to be a county employee or contracted position. So there's a lot of work that we need to do. And on a positive note, I've actually contacted Anita Valdez. She's very knowledgeable on a lot of this, these different aspects, and we're going to be working together on that.
Any other questions or comments from? So, first of all, this is something that I'm heavily in favor of, and I'd actually asked the manager to look into. And it is because I feel, or it's not an opinion, I think I can say I know that Colfax County, like many rural counties, is missing out on a lot of opportunities because we don't have somebody focused on all the grants that are out there, and there's a lot. I've tried to make myself familiar with them, and I'll tell you it's overwhelming what's all out there, both at the state, federal, nonprofit level. There are whole software programs dedicated to finding grants. So I think we're missing out, especially in this current situation where there's a lot of money at the state and federal level that's being pushed out to local governments. The one thing I hope that doesn't happen is that this person just takes on the responsibility of all the grants we're already managing successfully. If we bring this person on, in my opinion, this person should be going after new grants, new opportunity, not necessarily taking over the management of our current grants, because our current grants, we're getting successfully or applying for. And I'm not saying they couldn't help, but I just don't want the department heads to turn over their grant work to a specialist and then inundate that person with all the current grant work and not accomplish the goal of bringing in new money to the county. That's really what I would like to see. I do agree, Commissioner Kern, that North Central New Mexico Economic Development Council of Governments, which we are a member of, received $400,000 last year as a junior appropriations to supply the 7 counties that are members free grant writing services. And so I don't think that we've been able to take advantage of that. I know that Ms. Almeida has contacted me and pushing it because she's afraid if she doesn't use up all the money, that she won't get it in this coming legislative session. But they have submitted, I don't know the exact numbers, but it's close to $50 million, 36.
Like 36 grants and they received.
So, and a lot of those grants are still out, but they've also brought in millions of dollars where they've been successful through these grant writers for the communities within the 7-county region that North Central's supports. So this person could actually be in the beginning, somebody that identifies grants, utilizes North Central to actually write the grants, but what North Central's grant writers don't do is the full reporting that is required, because that's another big roadblock. So you can go out and get a grant, and then if you don't have the resources to do the appropriate reporting, which is federal grants, a lot of them have significant reporting requirements, then, you're, even though you get the grant, you could fail in your efforts to utilize the money or get future grants. I mean, it could be a penalty against you for future grants when you apply, if they see that prior grants you didn't fulfill all the paperwork. And I've only done one small USDA grant in my time. It was for an economic development plan for the village of Angel Fire. And it was for $50,000. And I guarantee you I put near $50,000 into it in resources, just managing the grant process. And, if you look at hourly rates and things like that. So this coordinator, to me, for the grants, maybe they use North Central to write the grants, but they're still going to have a function to play in administering those grants. And I do think that they're a resource for all of our departments. This type of position would be a resource. And basically, the way I would envision this is a department head would go to this special coordinator and say, this is what my needs are. I need this. Can you go find it for me? And they'll go out and they'll do the research and they'll say, I found it or I couldn't find anything. And if I found it, then they will, as long as the grant writing services are still available through North Central, they will go through North Central, they'll get a grant writer, here's what we want, what information do you need? The coordinator will collect the information, feed it to the grant writer, and then to the extent that's needed after the grant is received, if it is received, the coordinator would then do the required paperwork to follow through on those grants. So really, it's somebody whose job is to work with our department heads to find out what their needs are and to find money. Because I think the money's out there, but finding it and obtaining it is a huge challenge. So that was my idea, and the reason that I asked the manager to put this on the agenda. Again, one of the things I'm going to try and do as a chairman is not bring something like this and have you vote on it immediately. Like, you're right, this may need to be something that's included in next year's budget, because that's the question I'm going to have, not only what the salary range is and what the job description is, but do we have the money? And, when we have a limited amount of money, there's always, okay, what are we going to give up to get this? And those questions need to be asked, and that is why I think it would make sense for this to come out of the 2024 budget. And, but I wanted to start the conversation now and to have the commission think about it. And as you know, with open meetings, I can't call you and say, hey, I have this idea. What do you think? So that's what this is about. And I did get buy-in from the manager. He thought it was a good idea. So I'm hoping that we can dig into this. You guys should look into it and ask the questions of the manager that you feel need to be answered before you can support it. And hopefully we will come to a point where when we're going through the budget process, we will approve this new FTE.
Then just one thing to keep in mind too, and when we're researching this, when we do get these grants, and if work's done in the county, gross receipts tax will be charged along with some of these grants, most likely. And then with that, the county would be receiving funds back to hopefully cover some expense. So maybe we could get it's hard to say, but a realistic low end grants we might be able to get getting this position on board.
So set goals on the grants and then use the GRTs that we would receive from those grants to help justify the cost of this position.
Correct.
I mean, that makes good business sense to me. So there's no real action to take, other than maybe just if you're totally opposed to this, to express that. But if there's no other comments, we can move on to the next item. Any other comments? Okay, so this next item, we don't actually have to do today, we have to do it by April, because there is a process, and I don't know if you read this in your packets or not, but the next item is the nomination for a para board accounting membership position. So the State Retirement Fund is asking Colfax County to nominate and elect a representative on the para board for the state. And I will tell you, this isn't just a simple, we're gonna elect somebody and they're on the board. There's a process you have to go through. You have to get 1,500 signatures from county employees. We're gonna have to go outside the county, because if we don't do that, we won't qualify to be on the para board. And we won't have a representative on the para board. And that requirement may be the reason why, I don't know, at least in my 2 years here, I don't think we've had a representative on the para board. But if you read the requirements, is you have to have signatures from 1,500. Now, that means going to other counties. If you're interested in this position, you would represent the county on the retirement board, and you would get to influence and have a vote and say on things that changes that to the retirement system. I think one of the big ones that we're looking at right now is what do they call it, back to work? Is that the right term? So back to work is they're trying to figure out a way, especially in the area of our safety departments like the sheriff and the detention center, to allow people who've retired and are drawing para to go back to work. Right now, there's no incentive for them to go back to work because they would have to cancel their para. And there's a lot of things I don't want to get in, but basically when you start para, there's a period in which you don't get any adjustments. So there's cost of living increases that come in, but I think it's 5 years. I don't know if that's the right number or not, but there's a period when you start para that you don't get the increases. 7 years?
It's
3 years?
It's already out there.
Okay, sorry. I knew, I couldn't remember what the number was.
You guys-
But 3 years, so, people don't want to do that because, right now we're getting cost of living increases because inflation is so high. And so they don't want to go back to work because they don't want to have to sit through that period of not getting cost of living. Over time, since that's kind of compounded, those cost of living increases are compounded, it could actually mean a loss of a significant amount of money to somebody that's a retiree. And we're trying to work our way around that right now through legislation. But anyhow, the para board is going to be the one that's going to be making policies, unless legislation will tell which policies the board should make and regulate the policies. But this board are going to be the people that are going to be working to accomplish these goals on behalf of all the retirees. And so I just want you to know that it's not a done deal by nominating somebody. And I don't think it's something we want to take lightly. I know we're asked to be on a lot of boards and a lot of different commissions and so on when we're on the county commission. And some of them are more important than others. But this is one that if you want to be on it, you've got to be willing to go to Santa Fe during the meetings and participate. It's important. It's a big deal. And what I wanted to do, we don't have to have somebody until April, actually, is the drop dead. I think it's April 12th or something. But what I would like to do is to see if either of, right now, I'll be honest, I feel like I'm pretty full on what I can do with the different boards I'm on. So I would like to see if one of my fellow commissioners, or if there's another elected official, or it can be a manager, you just have to be an employee paying into para in order to qualify for this board.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
And they have to be vested.
Oh, and they have to be vested.
So that would,
It's a 5-year investment, right?
that would
Well, it
exclude
just depends, it could be 5, it could be 7.
anybody.
Oh, depending
Tier
upon
1 or 2.
when they came in.
Yeah.
So they have to be vested.
And it's only $150 signatures.
I'm sorry?
So it's 150, not 1,500.
Oh, it's 150. Well, that makes a little bit of difference.
It's only 3 counties.
That's what I did. I read this on Friday, and that's what I did. I should have re-reviewed it.
And they went to basketball games, so.
And I went to basketball. All right, so it's only 150, but you still got to get signatures. Yes, Joan?
I just had a question and maybe clarification. Whenever I read it, I thought it meant not to represent Colfax County, but a county position as a whole. So we're not the only county. This would be every single county throughout the state of New Mexico has the opportunity to submit a nomination. And then that board will select one person out of all of the county nominations to serve as a county representative. So this
Okay.
isn't just exclusive to Colfax County.
It's not just one.
It's not just.
County exclusive
It's
to us.
large, kind of like.
It's just a
Okay.
county.
It's an at-large.
Election, isn't it?
Okay, I
They do an
misunderstood.
election.
Yeah. and then the-
So if this is, so an at-large position to represent counties
Counties.
in the para board. Okay, I'm sorry, I
And
misunderstood.
I believe the last one was for Santa Fe. Was it Beverly Hills?
It's one of the
Down
big
Beverly or
counties,
Santa
yeah.
Fe. It's one of the bigger counties.
Okay, well, so I guess I just wanted to bring this and talk about it so that if somebody is interested, I think it's an important position. And there's a lot going on with para. This isn't just about setting rates and things. There's a lot of issues with para right now, and I do think that representation there would be important. But, so, any other comments or questions?
Yeah, I would suggest that maybe the county manager put it out to staff, and specify the parameters of which, and see if there's any staff or other elected officials that would be interested in it. And maybe could bring it back at the next meeting.
And Commissioner Kern, I have already sent that to all department heads and sent that to staff as well to see if there's some.
Thanks.
All right. Any other discussion? Again, no action to take there. Next is this is an MOU, I guess. Let's see. I just had my computer crash on me in the middle of the meeting. So next item on the agenda is discussion action on the State of New Mexico Government Services Agreement between the State of New Mexico Energy Minerals and Natural Resources Department and Colfax County. Nick?
Chairman, Commissioners, ladies and gentlemen, Nick Carnes, Colfax County Fire Marshal. These are a couple of grants that our departments have received. One is for Farley for $14,500. This is just standard practice to sign off on this portion of the agreement. We then send it to ENMRD, and then they'll give us a letter to proceed. So this is the first step. The second one was for hiring a wildland coordinator. We received a grant for $24,999 to hire a part-time person to help with the wildland coordination and improving our services we provide to the county. So that's both of them in a nutshell. I stand open for any questions.
Any questions from the commission?
So would this be a new position we're bringing on as far as the county goes?
Yes, sir. This would be a grant that is funded through the ENMRD, just to improve our services for wildland firefighting. It also requires a lot of documentation being sent to the ENMRD to prove that we are providing the services that we said we would provide. They set forth the parameters and job description, basically. We could add to that a little bit, but those will be discussions I'll be having with HR and the county manager as we move forward.
So the grant will cover all the entire cost of this employee,
Yes.
including para and all that other.
The way I understand it is I have to put the funds up front, and then we get reimbursed. And I do have funds available.
Thank you.
And so, I'm sorry, Commissioner Kern, did you have a question?
I do, thank you. Nick, is this is this a one and done grant, or is there an opportunity of renewal?
What they're telling me is right now, we could possibly get this for 2 years in a row. And their hope is that at that point, we're able to sustain it and maintain it beyond that. So right now, it's calling for a minimum of 15 hours per week. So that should easily be doable. I'm hoping I can find some part-time guys that would be available to do this kind of work. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed. So the minimum range that they're starting this position at is about $23.50 an hour, somewhere in that range. It's pretty substantial. It's basically about the same wage as an engine boss if they went out.
What do you foresee as possible sources of revenue to continue it after the 2 years?
Well, my thought is I would like to put together a wildland crew that we can send out on assignments. As you well know, commissioners, there's good funding available for doing that kind of endeavor. And if we can get them to basically pay for their own job, I think that would be a perfect opportunity for us to even make additional funding to help improve our services.
Thank you.
You bet.
Commissioner Kern, so I had experience with these wildland crews when I was at the Village of Angel Fire. And not only was it self-funding, it supplemented the regular fire department a little bit. So it paid for those, the firefighters. We had, now some of them were volunteers, so they weren't on salary, but we, at the Village of Angel Fire, we had salaried full-time firefighters as well, and the ones that were on the crew. So this helped pay for those people, and then in addition, we got money for equipment and things like that. So it was kind of a profit center, not a big one. It wasn't a ton of money, but it was.
Self-sustaining, it's fairly self-sustaining, I was aware of that, and knew that, but I
Okay.
just wanted, for everybody else.
Sure, no, I get it, that's a good question. So really, we have two items here, we're gonna deal with them separately, but the first one is the agreement with Farley, and on that one, we're gonna go out, buy the equipment, and they're gonna reimburse us, so it's really no bid on our budget. Did I get them backwards?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, I should do. Sorry. So the first one is this wildland coordinator position. So the issue is with this, and it is something, especially with the efforts that we're going to be having in the coming years in relation to fire prevention, that I think is going to greatly help our constituents. We have $20 million in grants that we're going to find out about here in a couple of weeks. And in Colfax County alone for forest thinning and so on. And this wildland coordinator would be able to participate in that and work with the people in those grants. So for example, at the Village of Angel Fire, we have our wildland team burn slash, which accomplished two things. One, it got rid of the slash, because that's a big problem when you're thinning forest. And two, we gave them practice. So when they were out dealing in the real forest fires, the first fire, they weren't green. They'd already burned many slashes and piles of slash and had handled that. So I think the wildland coordinator could work with the people, the Cimarron Watershed Alliance and others that are doing this forest thinning to try and develop programs like that would benefit our firefighters. And again, this is a budgetary issue, so it's not something that's part of this vote. This vote is just to accept or the agreement. But to me, this is of such importance that if we did, as a county, have to supplement, if we found the need for a full-time person to do this, and that's justifiable, and we have to supplement it out of our funds, you know, we'll see when that occurs, but on the surface, it seems like this would be something well worth financing, having the county finance it. This is that important of a position. So even though initially I think it's good to start them off and try and stay within this grant limitations, it may be things that once we assess everything and all the responsibilities that this person, that it might be well worth bringing them on full time. So any other comments, questions, comments? So I'll entertain a motion for item 15, State of New Mexico Governmental Services Agreement between the State of New Mexico Energy Minerals Natural Resources Department and Colfax County.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Kern?
Yes.
Commissioner Trujillo?
Yes.
Chairman White?
Yes. Item 16, this is an agreement with well, let me just read it. Farley Volunteer Fire Department Grant Award Agreement between State of New Mexico Energy Minerals and Natural Resources Department in Colfax County. And so Nick, instead of me explaining it, you're the expert.
No worries. So they received a grant for $14,500. We've got a 10% cost share that goes along with that. It's to purchase more personal protective gear for fighting wildland fires. So it's pretty cut and dry. No real issues with this grant, so I recommend approval.
Any questions or? So, Nick, my only question is, did we turn in similar grant requests from the other districts?
The other districts did not submit. It's pretty tough go with this grant, and we've had departments apply year after year, never got it. Just seems that Farley seems to be getting every grant. I don't know what they're doing right. They're doing a good job, so. It's up to each individual department basically to request for equipment, so that's where we stand.
Any other questions?
Way to go, Farley.
I'm sorry?
Way to go, Farley.
Yeah, way to go, Farley. Congratulations.
You buy a lotto ticket.
He does.
So I'll entertain a motion to approve the Farley Volunteer Fire Department Grant Award Agreement between the State of New Mexico Energy Minerals and Natural Resources Department in Colfax County.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Kern?
Yes.
Commissioner Trujillo?
Yes.
Chairman White?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nick. Next item, memorandum of understanding between Colfax County and New Mexico Department of Finance and Administration, Local Government Division DWI program.
Good morning, I'm in Person Trujillo, DWI program. I'm just requesting approval for pretty much all of our annual documents.
So these are approvals that we do annually, right?
Yes, sir.
And there's 4 different ones?
Yes, so there's,
So let's deal with
One
the,
at a time.
I'm sorry,
One at a time.
one at a time.
MOU.
So item 17 on this first memorandum, do you have any comments or explanations?
No, sir, do you have any questions? It's just the memorandum of agreement or understanding between the county and the Department of Finance.
Is it the same as last year?
I do believe so, yes.
Any other questions?
I have that.
Okay, if no other questions, I'll entertain a motion
So
for
moved.
item 17.
Seconded.
We have a motion and a second, Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Kern?
Yes.
Commissioner Trujillo?
Yes.
Chairman White?
Yes. Item 18, a statement of assurances for the local DWI grant and distribution program fiscal year 2024, which runs July 1, 2023 to June 30th, 2024.
Do you have any questions?
No
No
questions?
questions? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Kern,
Yes.
Commissioner Trio,
Yes.
Chairman Brown.
Yes. Item 19, Resolution 2023-06, authorizing Colfax County to apply to the Department of Finance and Administration Local Government Division to participate in the local DWI grant and distribution program. Any questions from the commission?
No.
All right, with no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Commissioner,
Yes.
Madam-
Commissioner Kern, yes. Commissioner Trio. Chairman
Yes.
Brown.
Okay, and last but certainly not least, the application for the fiscal year 24 local DWI program distribution and grant funding, the local government division of the Department of Finance and Administration.
I do have one quick question. What kind of prevention do you guys do? What kind of treatments? Just
Okay, so,
brief.
prevention,
Yeah.
and we're looking right now, to hire a prevention specialist. I have a few applicants, so we're working on interviewing them, that kind of thing. But a prevention specialist, they kind of, they go to the schools, they talk to kids about, drinking, they do senior year in high school, set up a booth at the health fair, that kind of stuff. So they're pretty much out in the community to prevent people from drinking or doing drugs, that kind of thing. The treatment provider, so we have a contracted treatment provider, she's been with us for quite some time. So clients that are sentenced to probation, they take the assessment. If they're recommended that they have to do treatment, she does an intensive outpatient treatment program with those clients.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, will you take roll call, please?
Commissioner Kern,
Yes.
Commissioner Trio,
Yes.
Chairman Brown.
Yes. Thank you.
Is that all I have? Thank you.
Thank you.
So item 21, discussion action on resolution 2023-07, supporting New Mexico County's 2023 legislative priorities. I'd like to first say that if there's anybody from New Mexico County who's watching, I apologize. I know that I had back in, when these first came out, I think I had discussed them in the commissioner's docket, what the priorities were. And I don't know why I neglected to submit this to the commission for approval. But they are asking, and as you may know, they use these approvals from these resolutions from the counties to help support their lobbying efforts at the legislature. So they'll come and say, look, we have all the counties supporting these items. Do you have, I'll do my best to answer them if you have any questions, but do you have any questions about the priorities?
No, Mr. Chairman, they've been discussed and were discussed at BIPO and everything else. They've been in front of us for quite some time, so I would move that we approve resolution 2023-07, supporting New Mexico County's 2023 legislative priorities.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, will you take a roll call?
Commissioner Kern,
Yes.
Commissioner Trio,
Yes.
Chairman Brown.
Yes. Item 22, discussion action on Behill Maldonado Detention Center standard operating procedures and policy changes. I don't know about you guys, but I got a couple of really good nights sleep reading this thing.
264 pages.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I didn't read most of the black. I only read the red and the blue because it was a lot. Madam Warden.
Good morning. So I'm here to have these changes and or add-ins added to our policy. All of these, the add-ins actually need to be put in our policy for accreditation. Some of the things were changed prior to from former wardens, so I just needed to correct, a couple of them were just corrections. These policies have been sent to the county attorney, with permission of the county manager, about a month ago. So they have gone through him, to explain the colors that are in, the blue are the add-ins that I put in, for accreditation. The red, that's not crossed out, is from the attorney. And then, of course, the red lines are the stuff that needs to come out for the changes.
Uh-oh, speakers. Okay, any questions from the commission?
Yeah, I just have one more. Has New Mexico counties reviewed them? The risk management there with the detention facility?
No, so the policies that I've put in, I did it based on the accreditation book that I received. Well, actually, I printed it out
Their
last year.
recommendations, yeah.
So it's all based on this book, and, if you guys would like a copy, if he allows it, I can get you guys a copy of the accreditation book. So everything that's put in, that's changed, is actually in this book right here. So it wasn't something that, I based it off of the accreditation.
And that, I think that's the one that's online. It's
Yeah.
available anyway, so
Yes.
it's on our website. Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions?
I'll just say one thing.
Sure.
Warden, I know when you tested and became the warden, we've had discussions on this issue and the importance of it and moving forward with accreditation. And I just want to commend your efforts. I know it's been a lot of hard work and effort. And thank you for the job well done.
My whole team's actually done a really, really good job, so thank you.
Okay, with no other questions, entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Kern?
Yes.
Commissioner Trujillo?
Yes.
Chairman Moore?
Yes. And I just would like to mention that I think reviewing this way is going to be a lot better than trying to review them and have them all broken.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
All right. Manager's docket, Mr. Manager.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Manager's is listed first.
One of the things that, as everybody is aware of, we are in the middle of a little bit of a solid waste crisis. And Monday, Virginia, Tiana, and I sat down with Christian, Ricardo, and Emilio to discuss the issues. Essentially, we have had some real challenges on solid waste throughout the county. And just to give some background, Tri-State is the company we have a contract with to provide solid waste pickup. That company was purchased by a group of individuals, and they have kind of gotten off to a rough start. In the course of that meeting, I actually asked their management team on a scale of 1 to 10 where they thought they were at. And I think they gave an honest answer. They think that they started out as a 1. They've had issues with personnel, they've had issues with trucks and getting them fixed. And as we've been keeping the commission aware and citizens, it has been truly an effort. The owners felt that at this point that they're at a 5. I think I might read them at a 3 or 4. But the important takeaway from the meeting that we had on Monday is that Ricardo's gave us a date of March the 1st, 2023, as they plan on being on track with the fulfilling their contract. And that's picking up solid waste twice a week. We are still getting complaints in the following areas: Maxwell outskirts, Inga Fire outskirts, We are aware of multiple locations that has not been picked up in weeks and are actively working with Tri-State to resolve the issues. As working to get a handle on the solid waste prices, we observed in some areas, the problem is not so much the dumpsters being picked up, but one of the things we have observed, and this is because Tijuana goes out and is doing a fantastic job on checking dumpsters every day, is that we actually have some dumpsters where they're not full, they get people putting trash around the dumpsters, or the dumpsters are partially full. So we think that maybe trying to educate folks moving forward would be a good idea. We've also noted that, once again, there's prohibited items going into the dumpsters, animals, tires, appliances, and construction material. All these items being placed in the dumpster are causing them to fill a bit faster. During the meeting with Tri-State, Virginia did propose a discount of $7,920 from our normal contracted portion in monthly bill, which is $19,360. If approved, in the month of January, we will try to work to credit customers. We know this has been a real headache for a lot of our customers out there and Colfax County citizens. So we're seeing what we can do to help compensate them a little bit. Let's see. I did get an email from Commissioner Kern about the Maxwell outskirts area. And just to let you know, Commissioner, I did send Tiana out there to those locations yesterday. Essentially, I think there were two beer cartons that looked like 12 packs to me in the picture. That were not in the dumpster, so she picked those up. She's been tamping those down, creating space. Once again, she goes out every day to do this. And we were assured by Tri-State that we would hit those dumpsters on Thursday, and we'll continue to monitor that. So I think we're continuing to move forward. It did seem in this meeting that the Tri-State and the owners were very adamant about they wanted to do a good job. They realized they got off to a bad start. And once again, we're looking to be on full track on March 1st, and we'll continue to monitor the situation. So that's on the trash. One of the good things is on the OPID settlement, and I think you guys already have this information. Colfax County was awarded $620,400 and 20 cents in the settlement. And of course, we have a long list about exactly what those can be spent on. But I think it was good to get that. And I talked to Jonah, and we've already received those funds. I did have, as I mentioned earlier, an opportunity to sit down with Scott Perry, the city manager from Matone. And once again, he's encouraging us to work together. And he did express a very sincere and heartfelt thank you for us trying to look at the ARPA funds and trying to help him in that way. He's been in the business long enough to know. He said he kind of wondered if it would get by the county attorney, but anyway, he was very grateful. But I do think that he proposed a lot of ideas about the town of Raton, the city of Raton, and the county working together to further benefits and provide opportunities for both the county and the city. And once again, I think that goes right in line with this commission's goals and objectives. And so I look forward to working with him on future issues. As you can tell, I want to commend Amandeo and Fred. We have screens that are relocated, and already I can tell you the acoustics are a little bit better by this movement. Amandeo is working with trying to work on even improving the acoustics better. And what we're looking at doing is probably trying to put some sound absorption foam. They usually look like 8 crates in and around the building. And so we're working with some people to further that. Once again, we're gonna have to get 3 bids, but I can tell you, just from today's meeting, the acoustics have improved, I think substantially. So I think that's good. Virginia and Tabitha, I would have had them present, Gianna, present the trash, solid waste report, but they are actually testing right now to become procurement. And hopefully, I'm very confident that they're going to pass their test. And so that will give us actually 3 procurement officers so that we have one leave, like we have one on maternity leave right now, it won't impact the county government. I mentioned this earlier, but I did want to just thank our fire marshal and thank the sheriff. I think they have been incredibly successful at getting a lot of grants, bringing a lot of revenue into the county. And with that, I think they've been able to benefit the various fire departments and the sheriff's office. So I think they are doing a good job. And I think they need to continue to do that. And I am hopeful on resolution 2023, especially on the House Bill number 2 appropriations, nutrition reimbursement. I think that will help us a lot, prisoner transportation. But I appreciate the commission's support of this, especially on the recruitment and retention. I think that is an incredible resource that we have locally, and as we are all aware, hiring and retention for law enforcement and corrections is probably one of the biggest challenges that this nation faces. And it's huge. And I think that if we can work together to get this approved, I think it will ease a lot of the issues for our current law enforcement and even some of our neighboring communities with some of the law enforcement issues. So I think that is absolutely vital and essential, and thank the commission for doing that. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Manager. Does the commission have any questions of the manager, or would you prefer to address them in your docket? No?
Yeah, that's fine.
Member Kern, do you have anything for the commissioner's docket?
No, I'd just like to say thank you to the manager for addressing the solid waste, because it has been a huge concern. I believe we're on week 4 on, I call it the suburbia maximum. So I appreciate that. And we'll see on Thursday, hopefully they'll get there. At the previous meeting that we had a couple of weeks ago and stuff, I brought up about the Supercross and us needing to do something at the, about the restrooms there at the event center. I didn't know if that had been addressed at the lodgers tax meeting. I believe you were supposed to have one last Monday. And I also noticed that there's $80,000 in capital outlay that in the budget it hasn't been spent, and that was flagged for something, what the intentions, what the plans were for that, or can we, or do we need to put this on the agenda for discussion at the next meeting?
Okay, I can do that.
What if, Commissioner, when is that? Remind us of the date of the
The Supercross?
Supercross.
It's the first part of September. I don't remember the date, but I know it's the first part of September, the 9th possibly.
Yeah, I just have a few things. Just to comment on the trash, I know that they are working on it in my district over there. I live right on the county line, and they were out there Sunday morning, heard the trash truck and saw them picking it up and working on it. Just also, I wanted to let the fellow commissioners, I reached out to our county manager and also the county attorney, and I attended the Northeastern Economic Development Organization meeting that we had this last week, and I learned about PROs, which is a potential relocation opportunity for businesses and kind of economic development. And kind of there's opportunities for businesses to come here. There's certain criteria that we need to meet. And right now, what I'm looking at is I asked if the county manager could see what a viable lease would be of a certain land or possible sale, and then just to get some kind of criteria made up, and then maybe fit into these PROs if something does come along. We have something or some kind of set, and then it could be brought in front of us at a later date. So I just wanted to mention that. Thank Ann for El Raton Media Works, and I encourage everyone to go to their website and push this through. I think it's going to be huge for Colfax County and the city of Raton as well. This is not really a county that has our name, but I attended the Sweetheart Ball for this last weekend, and it was a huge success. I had a lot of fun, and I just applaud all of them for everything they're doing to keep the Colfax County Fair going and raising money. So, and my last little thing, I don't know if many of you seen it, but Senator Lujan is having his mobile office hours. He's going to be here tomorrow. He's not going to be, but I'm sure his office staff will be. They're going to be at the Senior Center from about 11:30 to 1. This is the Colfax County Senior Center. So if you have any issues with Social Security, Medicare, veterans benefits, any kind of federal program, I recommend you go down there and talk to them, reach out to them. I'm a stickler with this stuff. I reached out to Representative Fernandez's office and getting her reply, and I'll probably go down there tomorrow just to ask questions and get put on their radar. That's pretty much all I had.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, I did get a response from our county attorney on this question. It says long-term lease is possible, but we need to gather more information as to fair market value of the real property and long business proposal. But it can be doable. We just need more information.
Okay, and my thing is, I just want, if the PRO, if we meet a good chunk of the criteria, and the county has this land that could possibly be used, what are the terms that would have to meet state statute, so it's not anti-donation or anti-anything else, to maybe move forward, and then if it's at that point, then it can be brought to us. But if this way, those companies that are going for the PRO know what criteria they have to meet.
So I think that'd be a good question for legal counsel to answer, but I think that in general, the anti-donation is going to be the concern, which basically means we have to charge fair market.
Right. But I just want to make sure, I want to have our stuff done ahead of time, so we're not kind of scrambling to come up and we lose an opportunity.
I agree. Okay, well, thank you. I do have a few items I'd like to bring up. First of all, I'd like to introduce a lady that's in the audience, Miss Diane Dixon. So there's many things that I'd like to accomplish as the chairman or as a commissioner in Colfax County. And as I alluded to earlier, in many situations, I feel like I bit off more than I can chew, chasing these things down. So it's really refreshing when you have a member of the public that is passionate about an issue and approaches you with that issue and is willing to do the work. They're not just complaining. They're not just recommending or making a suggestion. They're actually doing the work. And this was something that I was made aware of when I ran for county commissioner. I'll be honest, it didn't really affect me personally before I was a commissioner, so I didn't really think about it too much. But it became evident that Colfax County is sorely lacking in transportation services, primarily for our elderly, but for many other people in our community that may need transportation to go to medical services or go to clinics, go to even the county office to do business. And Ms. Dixon has that same concern as a resident here in Raton. And so I said, all right, well, you know, let's see what you can come up with. And just a few weeks later, much to my surprise, she actually came up with a solution or potential solution. And she has a packet of information here. I'm going to have the manager make copies of this and distribute it so that the commission will have more information. Because my hope is in the next meeting or the meeting after that to be able to bring before the commission a potential solution for Colfax County in this area of transportation. And I'm not going to dig into it now because what I'm going to ask Ms. Dixon to do is to contact my fellow commissioners, because I can't discuss this with you other than in a meeting here. She's going to present to you her ideas that she's come up with on how to solve this problem. I would hope that you would give her whatever feedback, whether it be positive or negative, whatever issues you're going to need to see to have this be successful, a successful venture for the county if we decide to go down that road. And in the next meeting or the meeting after, depending upon how quickly these meetings take place, I'm going to ask her to come before us again and do a presentation and potentially provide either an MOU for a vendor that might do this, you know, depending upon the dollar amount, we may have to go through procurement. But something to take us down the path of getting transportation services, good transportation services within Colfax County. And I will tell you that Union County has a very successful program. They're not really much bigger than us in size, either geography or population. And Trinidad has a very successful program. I know it's a different state with different rules, but nonetheless, we're kind of surrounded. Taos, also more the municipality of Taos, not so much the county, but they also have a transportation program that's in place in conjunction with the Blue Bus and some other services that they have for their elderly community. So I think we're kind of out in the cold right now, and I think it's something we need to consider. So Ms. Dixon, did you have anything to add to that? If you wouldn't mind coming to the podium.
Actually, I'll see you at the senior center tomorrow, Commissioner Trujillo. This is exciting.
I don't know what time I'll be down there. I have to work with my wife on
Well,
babysitting hours, but.
I know that what we're talking about primarily, or from my perspective, being senior, is medical transportation for people in Raton, except for Raton. And some or all of us have had to deal with the lack of medical transportation since we've been here. Just really briefly, out of the blue, I learned about a company headquartered in Clayton. Been in business 15 years. Has partners with current contracts with the state transportation, Department of Transportation, New Mexico Department of Veterans Services, New Mexico Medicaid. This company provides transportation, in most cases, for trips that are medically related at no cost. Goes throughout the state. That means the vets, the seniors who live in Raton can be driven, have transportation to Albuquerque, Veterans Hospital down there, going north, Pueblo, Colorado Springs, Denver. There are a lot of specialists who practice coming from primarily Colorado, who practice at Mount San Rafael. But there is not a transportation structure. This is a company that has been in place 15 years. It's proven, it's successful, and we hope to be able to present information to you in your February 28th meeting. Just give you some more information, give you an idea, but it fills a void. It serves a need. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Dixon. So again, this is my effort to make sure that we don't, the first time the commission does see something that is an initiative is in a packet the Thursday before our meeting, just making you aware.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I have a question. So, and Mrs. Dixon, this was just related to Raton. We do represent individuals from other communities. I'm just putting that out there.
So that's true. Without getting into the details, the idea was to start the service in Raton just because of density of population and other reasons, but to grow it over time to be throughout the county. And it's not so much that they wouldn't pick up people in other locations of the county, but I think initially, again, we're going to be dealing with this nonprofit who's trying to expand their organization, and they don't want to take on bite off more than they can chew. So you're right, we do serve the whole county. It's just Raton is the starting point for this, and our goal is for this eventually to serve the entire county and maybe for them to have multiple locations within Colfax County.
Thank you.
But the initial evaluation is happening with the facility in Raton. The next thing I just want to do is ask the manager if in the next meeting, if we could get an update from Manager Behill on the roofing ordinance initiative. Really the ordinance initiative. So if we could do that in the next meeting. Also in the next meeting, I'd like to see if we could have a date scheduled for the ARPA meetings that we discussed in the last meeting. I've talked to a few of our fellow elected officials in municipalities, and they're very interested in those meetings and to try and understand how the county can work with our municipalities and our constituents across the county to benefit from that ARPA money. Also, if we could add to the next agenda an update on the Good Neighbor Agreement that we had a presentation on from the U.S. Forestry. Also, if we could get from, I'm not sure who this would be, I don't know if it'd be our finance specialist or the manager, an update on the ambulance money and the MOUs, because I'm hearing conflicting things. I'm hearing from the county that we haven't really received any MOUs. I'm hearing from the municipalities that they sent them in.
I think, go ahead, sir. I think I can address that. And I sent an email, but we're getting so many emails and stuff like that. I know that's an issue. It's my understanding that Raton Fire Department did approach me and they want to purchase a $500,000 ambulance and wondered if we could work with them to do that. Jim is currently working on changing the agreement. And the one, we did receive one contract essentially back from Angel Fire. They haven't asked for any funding or anything at this point. They just acknowledged it. And to my knowledge, I think that's all we have. Is that correct, Tina?
So I can tell you, and we have a mayor of Springer here, I believe he told me that they approved and sent theirs in. I know the mayor of Eagle Nest said they sent theirs in.
Just texting them now to make sure that we have sent them. I was under the impression.
And I was at the Cimarron council meeting where they approved it. The mayor said they sent it in, or actually Sean Jeffrey said she sent it in. But I don't know, because on the MOU, it says to mail it to a specific location. So this is something that would have come in via the mail. And there's an address on the MOU that I assume is our standard PO box. But that's something we need to look into because, you know, I think we're coming to a point where the municipalities that signed that MOU are going to be wanting that money. Also, just to make the commission aware, I will be requesting that a resolution be put on the next agenda dealing with support of certain aspects of our election code. So that's going to be coming. We'll try and get that out to you as soon as possible. I will comment from my opinion. I think, Mr. Manager, you're more than generous with your evaluation of the solid waste being a 4. I don't see it as a 4, but I can tell you that it is an issue that's got to be dealt with. And I know you're working on it. I'm not trying to rag on you or anything or any of your staff. I'm just saying that it is a critical situation. And if we don't have it solved before spring break, there is likely to be an armed uprising in Moreno Valley. So, some good news is that I spoke with Representative Sanchez, and we will have a $100,000 coming to the county to help us finance the repeater improvements that we need to our communication system, which will benefit both the fire and the sheriff's department. That is a $200,000 project, so the representative was only able to give us $100,000, so the county will be looking to come up with the extra $100,000 in this coming year to try and expend that appropriations. So just be aware, he was able to come up with half of it.
Could we possibly look at the ARPA funds available to maybe match that other?
I think that's a great question. I don't know what the answer is, but I mean, certainly we should look.
And then I have one comment, if you don't mind, that just came to mind. And signing the checks and everything else, I was curious to see if we could do ARPA funding for maybe solar panels for some county buildings. That's just something to throw out there.
Well, I think that's the intent of these meetings, because to be honest with you, I sat through the class. There's a lot of information in this ARPA rules, the final rules, and there's a lot of gray area in those rules. And, you know, I think I need to sit through the class again before I feel confident in answering anything, just because there's a lot of requirements. But that's a great question, and that's why I think we need to have the meeting to try and determine the best way to spend it, because it's not something usual. By the way, Mr. Sheriff, Representative Sanchez said he also has a vehicle for your department that he's going to appropriate.
And so on ARPA funds, Chairman and Commissioners, we did meet with an individual to come in and give us a quote on the digitizing of our documents. And right now, probably a rough estimate is over or around 1.2 million. So it's gonna cost us quite a bit.
Brianna, is that
Yes, ma'am.
just your office, or does that
It's
include like the sheriff's office and the
everything.
detention office?
The whole county.
It's everything.
Everybody, okay.
So it's us, the manager, and then the treasurer's books upstairs, the assessor, all their property cards, and then the detention center.
And sheriff, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then it may cost a little more, once we decide whether I'm gonna request that I not just get the microfilm, I want fish also, because that takes up so much, so the less amount of space.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And finally, I want to let my fellow commissioners know that I've made a recommendation to the manager that legal counsel start attending our meetings. And they'll be attending them via Zoom or maybe dial in, I'm not sure I don't know that legal counsel, it makes sense to have them drive 3 hours to come up and drive 3 hours back. But my concern is that I want to make sure, like right now, this county is in a fishbowl for many reasons. And agencies that we don't want looking at us are staring at us. And I think that some of the issues we had could have been avoided had we had legal counsel. Now, I know it's going to cost us money. It's probably going to cost us $1,500 a meeting, depending upon how much I talk. But
We'll hold you to 3 minutes too.
yeah, actually, that probably would be fair. But anyhow, I just wanted you to know that I have asked the manager to start including counsel in on our meetings. As we do go through, we have a lot of things we're trying to deal with, ARPA and so on, a lot of new things, the whole wildland fire issues and transportation and other things that I think if we have legal counsel readily available to advise us on the spot, we're less likely to have issues in doing things correctly moving forward. So I just want y'all to know that I have made that request to the manager. I don't know if he's made those arrangements yet or.
The county attorney is monitoring the meetings and is communicating to me directly via text.
Okay.
I would like to say it would be nice to put a face to the name at some point with the attorney. I've never personally met him besides over Zoom.
Well, it would be cheaper to send you to Albuquerque than it would to bring him.
I might do that next time I'm in Albuquerque. I might just schedule a hello.
So anyhow, those are the issues that I had. Are there any other issues before the commission? If not, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So
Madam Clerk, can you take?
Commissioner Kern? Yes. Commissioner Trujillo?
Yes.
Chairman?
Yes. This meeting's adjourned. Thank you all for your attention.